Welcome
Is that for Nobbs?
to the UK NOB 40. Now, the UK NOB 40 is the 40 best things in film, music, television, and live performances that I've seen. How it goes is, I'm going to be listing them all off in separate sections. So it's not 40 things in total, it's a number of films, a number of music albums, a number of shows, and a number of live performances that add up to 40. Big surprise. I'm going to try to limit myself to talk about each item for only 30 seconds, otherwise it's going to go on forever, so you might not see the in-depth analysis that you might want from other videos. I'm trying to not do this presentery voice, but sometimes I can't turn it off. Anyway,
UK NOB.
let's move on to films. And there were a few honourable mentions. These are the ones that didn't make the cut, but I still think were pretty good, which are Blink Twice, Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, Civil War, Wicked, Queer, and Monkey Man, which were all great films, but just didn't crack the top list. Let's kick it off. So let's start with 12th place, which is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Also, I just realised you might be able to hear the dog because the British gas man's here, so she's going a bit crazy. So obviously, before I get into the plot of the film and before I get into the plot of anything else, I'm just going to say there's obviously going to be spoilers here, so anything you haven't seen, if you want a spoiler, skip the part of it, I guess. Anyway, on to Kingdom. So obviously Kingdom is set 200 years or so after Caesar's death, so the kind of mindset and the mantra that Caesar's set to live is long gone, and the empire of Proximus Caesar is the dominant force. Obviously, incredible action scenes, as there always is. The CGI is just the best, It was really sick to see the David and Goliath story of Proximus and Noah, and the way it kind of built up so well until the big fight in the bunker, which then led to the apes coming together with their little eagle friends to kill him off. It was absolutely delicious. I will admit, it was kind of weird looking back at clips now that I've seen Better Man, because you kind of have a weird view of a CGI monkey. Moving on to number 11, Alien Romulus. So I've been a fan for Alien for quite a while. I've been able to see the first two movies in cinema in Brighton. The film kind of feels like a modern twist on the classic film, kind of like a soft reboot kind of thing. Kaylee Speeney smashed it. She's been on quite a great run since Civil War and Priscilla. She's been doing a lot of great films in a row recently, so quite interested to see what becomes of her. David Johnson has just such an endearing face, you really feel for him when they're all kind of picking on him. Obviously, that quickly changes when you see more of his character as it goes on. He just has that kind of face that you just constantly feel sorry for. He's in Rye Lane, and in Rye Lane he's kind of like a pathetic idiot. So 10th place is another horror film, and I feel like 2024 was a big year for horror films, and I feel like horror is definitely on the rise at the moment. I feel like we're definitely getting a lot better quality horror films that we did before. So 10th place is Heretic. So I was already looking forward to watching Heretic because I quite like this new Hugh Grant that we've got going on. I quite like how he's grumpy and moody and he's a miserable old man. So I kind of watch anything he's in these days. So I was already kind of going to watch it anyway, so I kind of tried to avoid trailers for it. It was always something I was interested in. But I loved it. I thought it was quite a simple concept, but it was executed really, really well. His Jar Jar Binks impression was terrible. That was probably one of the worst Jar Jar Binks impressions I've seen in my life. I love the house design of it and the kind of maze. It gave me escape room vibes, if you've ever seen the film Escape Room, or I guess played an escape room. I tend to be a bit 50-50 with ambiguous endings. Sometimes I love them, sometimes I think they're bloody pretentious and annoying, but this one I really, really enjoyed, and I forgot who the main girl is in it, but I've seen she's in another horror film, so I can't wait to see that horror film, whatever it was called. Now, I absolutely did not think this film would make my top list at all, but here it goes. It is the Robbie Williams biopic, Better Man. Now, Robbie has quite a special place in my heart, to be honest. He was one of the first people I kind of listened to as a child. It's my first ever memory of liking music. I remember when I was about 8 or 9 and the song You Know Me was on the TV and I saw it. It's a kind of an Alice in Wonderland parody with him as a rabbit, and I thought, this is music, And obviously as I've grown up, I've stopped listening to Robbie Williams, but I still wanted to watch it, if anything, for the young Finn Nobbs to really see what was done. And also he's a monkey. What's not to like about a monkey, The first 30 minutes of the film do feel a bit gimmicky because obviously he is a monkey. As soon as the film develops and you learn more about the character, the gimmick wears off. I didn't think the film was going to be as dark as it was. It's really, really dark. You really feel for Robbie and his self-destructive nature and how he can't help but ruin his life. But in conclusion, I think it's one of the best biopics we've had in recent memory. Back on the horror train, and we've got Speak No Evil with James McAvoy. I first gained interest for this film after finding out that James McAvoy based his character on Andrew Tate and kind of toxic masculinity. I thought that was quite an interesting take. And when I tell you, my heart was racing throughout. I was gripped. The tension built up so well, and it's just, you're always on edge, and it was just a whole stream of emotions constantly going concurrently. McAvoy's performance is genuinely Oscar worthy. His character is terrifying, so unnerving, so unsettling that the moment he's on screen you feel at edge. I quite liked how the wife just absolutely bossed it whilst her little pussy husband just struggled throughout the film. You know, it was a great dynamic. An absolute classic of British cinema next, which is Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. Now, anyone who doesn't like Wallace and Gromit deserves to go in the bin. And I'm going to go on the record and say Vengeance Most Foul, I think it's their best work yet. You know, the way that technology has advanced now, so they can blend CG with the stop motion so effortlessly, and it just works so well. And it works so well because you can't tell it's CG. And that's the true definition of knowing when CG is good, is when you don't even know that it's CG. Feathers McGraw is the best villain in British cinema. He's Blofeld with a rubber glove. It felt like the level up from The Wrong Trousers, you know, the boat chase scene kind of being just like a reference to the iconic train chase scene, and it was just pure cinema. Number 6 is another animated piece, and that's the documentary by one of, if not the greatest producer of all time. That is Piece by Piece. Now, I feel like this film was designed for me because, number 1, I love a bit of Lego, played a lot of Lego games, got a few Legos because, you know, still a child, and I love Pharrell Williams. You know, the Lego Studio, whatever they're called, absolutely smashed it. The animation on it is amazing, and it's just so nice to see different animation styles kind of being more prominent instead of the devastatingly boring Pixar style. It's so interesting to see Pharrell's life being told through Lego. I had no idea that he went to school with so many talented people. How are you telling me he went to school with Timbaland, Missy Elliott, who live in the same area as Pusha T? It's just like, why is everyone just so talented in West Virginia? Like, what is going on? And throughout the whole film, you're just hearing all these songs, and it's just like, love how you're finding out about how all these different songs get made, and when they talk about the bit with him producing all the different songs in the same studio, it's just, perfect. Choo Choo, what is that? Wants to get back on the horror train, please. That is the superbly terrifying sequel to Smile. Smile 2. I don't have a Smile 2 poster. As you can see, I'm a big fan of Smile. Kind of the perfect horror style for me, where it was supernatural, but in the same way, I couldn't believe it was real, so it kind of couldn't affect me. I do get scared by a lot of supernatural things because it's out of my control. It could happen. I also just love jump scares. You know, I love the way that horror films feel like a roller coaster sometimes, and the jump scares were next level. There was one part, I'm not sure where it was, and when I tell you I leaped out my chair, I genuinely leaped up and almost sat on the arm of the chair because it made me jump so much. I like the unreliable narrating of the film, how you never know what's real and what the Smile monster is controlling to make us and, you know, Sky Riley see. But, you know, whenever Smile 3 eventually comes out, I'll be there. The next film on the list is the raunchy tennis drama Challengers. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, they're the goats at the moment of film scores. Every single film score they do is just perfect, and this is just next level. It really sold that tennis sport drama that still made the film feel like sexy and cool and stuff at the same time. What a bromance, you know? These two rat-looking gentlemen just having the best time and then falling apart over Zendaya. I love the film doing the classic Steve Coogan and other guys approach of starting with the end, then going right back and filling in the middle in between.
I think the best way to tell the story is by starting at the end, briefly, then going back to the beginning, and then periodically returning to the end, maybe giving different characters' perspectives throughout.
The POV of tennis ball was crazy. I have no idea how they done that, but the constant was great. Okay, moving on to the top 3. Now, this is back on the Zendaya ride because we're going on the sequel to the beloved Dune, which is called Dune Part 2. Now, I love a good bit of Tiny Tim. You know, I did think that the first film was interesting, but it really didn't sell it to me. It was all right, but as the first film kind of leads up to the second film, I was interested to see how the film progressed and how it told the story. And it blew me away. It was just so good. The hero's journey of Paul Atreides, just unreal. And also just the final scene at the end with the massive fight scene, you know, when he defeats Bald Elvis. It was just so sick. It was just quite comforting to see Javier Bardem play a good guy for once and be kind of the comic relief character of the film. I feel like, you know, he's always kind of scary and stuff, so it's nice to see him smile and not be like a menacing, bring out my milk smile. And he got Flossie Poo, and, you know, I can't wait to see Dune Messiah because I'm a big Flossie Poo fan, and I can't wait for more Dune dry knowledge. Dry knowledge? More dry... I don't know what I'm talking about, to be honest. I'm excited for Dune Messiah. Let's just keep it as that. Okay, so I realised that I've completely forgotten about a whole film here. Number 2 spot, which is Anora. Anora won the Palme d'Or, so I was kind of already interested on it. And because it won the Palme d'Or, I also tried to not watch trailers for it because I was already, you know, if it won the Palme d'Or, I try to always watch the Palme d'Or film. And it's the guy who made Red Rocket and Florida Project and Tangerine. So I was all kind of already interested in it. And Mikey, Madison, amazing. I watched this film alone at the cinema. It was only me and this other couple. And it was kind of awkward because, first of all, there was only 3 of us in the cinema. So it's just really awkward anyway. And second of all, the film, if you don't know it, it's about a stripper. So there's like a lot of sexual scenes in it. I had a donut with me and I wrapped it in kitchen roll so I can just sit down and eat it whilst watching the film. Then I realised that the couple in the cinema turned back. They would see a guy on his own with some tissue on his lap watching a film that has about a stripper. So every time there's a sexual scene, I just went... I had to eat the donut to let them know that this is a donut eating tissue and not for anything else. But the film was sick, you know? So good, so dramatic. I love the way it infuses comedy with drama so well. The Russian billionaire kid just being an absolute dweeb was just funny, and I loved it. Anyway, the moment that you've all been waiting for. The number 1 top spot. Can I hear a whoop whoop?
Wanker.
Is this obviously, speaking of Cannes, this won the best screenplay at Cannes, and it is the disgusting body horror, The Substance. Now, I'm not sure if you noticed, but I tend to go into films as blind as possible. Obviously, you can't help but watch trailers for things, but for some things I kind of try to restrict myself. And for this film, I genuinely knew nothing about it. All I saw was the poster, saw it was Margaret Qualley, saw it did well at Cannes, and thought, I'm going to see this film. It looks weird, it looks fun, it looks Cronenberg-esque, the poster. So I thought, sick, I'm going to watch this film, boom. I am always a bit 50-50 when it comes to body horror because sometimes I love it and I think it's sick, and sometimes it makes me feel like I want to throw up. Yeah, this film did a really good job of being just gross enough to make me feel ill, but not making me want to throw up. The casting was perfect for the film already because obviously you've got Demi Moore, who is beautiful in her own right. True beauty does come from within, and how even though other people see in such a different light, you can't see yourself in that pretty light, which is always sad, especially from a woman's point of view. Obviously, I am not a woman, if you didn't know. And also on the casting point of casting Margaret Qualley, I don't want to go into detail of how she's perfect for that role. She just is, you know. And I love the absurdity of the ending of it, you know, how Monster Elisa Sue, I love they did that practically. It was just amazing and disgusting, and the whole blood scene everywhere, kind of Shining reference with the floor, the blood, everything was just so sick, and the way it just ends is just perfect. That's why it's got number 1 spot. Right. I'm gonna start recording this again.
Turn this TV off, turn this TV off, turn this TV off, turn this TV off.
So 6 series have made the list, so without further ado, number 6, and that's the Japanese miniseries Shogun. Now, I put put this off for a little while because I saw the poster, thought it looked cool, but wasn't really that interested in it. It was only until I had quite a few recommendations from people and I started reading a few books on Japanese history. Now I really enjoyed the kind of lost in translation of Cosmo Jarvis's character, I forgot his name. But I really loved how he just couldn't get used to the culture. And then as it goes on, you see him get more involved in the culture, and the man he was before isn't the same man he wants to be. So he kind of goes a bit full circle, which I enjoyed. And I don't know how they're going to progress it. I heard that they're making a sequel to it, a second season. I think it ended quite well. You know, I don't know why you need to carry on from that. But yeah, number 5 spot is the TV adaptation of the 2019 film The Gentleman. I was a big fan of the Gentleman film. I've generally been a Guy Ritchie fan. It's the reason I've got this tattoo on my finger. The story was great. I felt like it did remind me a lot of the Guy Ritchie of old, the Snatch and Lock, Stock, but I feel like anytime you mention Guy Ritchie, you're always going to refer him to those films of the past. But it was still really, really good. I really enjoyed the power play as well with like Ray Winstone, Theo James and the girl from Skins. I thought it was a really good dynamic. I'm looking forward to see how that progresses. Now 4th place belongs to, I think, one of the best TV shows out right now, and that is season 4 of The Boys.
It was perfect. Everything, down to the last.
I do feel that season 4 is weaker than the other season. I feel like season 3 was peak. It was still amazing, obviously, but the whole series kind of felt like it was leading towards season 5. The last episode is just amazing. I feel like a lot of TV shows are nailing the amazing last episode. If you haven't seen Severance, the last episode of season 1 of Severance is, I think, the best episode in TV history. It's just perfect. But this does also a great job with the montage of heart-shaped box at the very end. It's just... And I'm a big fan of gore and superhero stuff. Obviously, Supplements made number 1, so you know I love a good bit of gore. And yeah, it was sick. Absolutely adored Gen V as well. Thought that was a great TV show. And actually thought Gen V was better than The Boys, which I might live to regret saying that now. Now we're keeping it with the superhero-based train, even though this features no one with actually any powers, which is the Penguin.
Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart.
Now this show from start to finish was amazing. You know, I feel like every episode was just so good and executed so well. The episode on Victor's backstory was just utterly heartbreaking. It was just amazing, and the way that they showed Oz as just being terrible from day one, just being like an absolute brute. So even though he's the main character, you're not rooting for him for a second. It's just perfect. Back on the ending train, the ending of it was just perfect. The way it just like subtly nods to Penguin becoming the kind of kingpin of Gotham, and Batman, the little Batman logo in the end, just teasing Batman Part 2. Now 2nd place it goes to a show that I thought went a bit under the radar, which is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I was unsure about why they would reboot Mr. and Mrs. Smith as a TV show. I didn't really know what it was going to do, but the show isn't really anything like the film. You know, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good spy show. I just love the way the show kind of flips. You think you know where it's going first of all, and then it just constantly just shifts all the time. Also, I liked, what's his name, Wagner Moura, I think that's his name, the guy who's in Civil War. He's like a B-Tech Pedro Pascal, you know. Back on number 1 spot. I do feel like my number 1 spot is a little bit biased because it is a show I watched most recently, and that is the heartbreaking therapist sitcom Shrinking.
I wanna hear myself think.
Now I did enjoy season 1. It was a bit cheesy at times, but I thought it was quite comforting to watch. It felt like a nice, you know, warm hot chocolate on a winter's day. And obviously Brett Goldstein's a writer, Sutton-born lad. Yeah, my use. Sorry, but this show is just one of the most devastating shows ever. Every single conversation is a hard conversation, which is crazy. You know, can't they just be happy for like 1 minute and just not have a deep conversation? I teared up almost every single episode. It's just so emotional, so well written, and just so funny at the same time. This might be the wildest take I've ever had in my life, but I genuinely think that this is Harrison Ford's best role, because all his other roles he plays a kind of bravado action man, hey kid, I'm the boss kind of thing, and he's just so raw and emotional in this film that he really opens up and you really feel for him. So that was part 1 of the UK NOB 40, but stick around because we've still got 22 places left to fill with live performances and albums, so stay tuned.
You can afford it.